When the threat of darkness loomed like a dragon perched on the castle keep, it made you do things you might not otherwise do, and things you would do, you did with careful precision. Going blind was curious like that. It had taken hold of Coraline Shay's life and become a gauze around her every breath, now stitched within her like the binding of her treasured novels. Every step she took across the Washington wilderness, her slim boots sunk in sand and mud, was a step closer to never seeing its landscape again. Her type of blindness crept in like a thief who visited not once, but every evening, making off with a little more each time, until one day there would be nothing left. She had known about its possibility since childhood, about its certainty since she was 17, and about its imminent pursuit since her 23rd birthday last year. There was no cure. It was as certain as it had been with her father and her grandfather before him, her Aunt Patrice and Great-Uncle Warren. An inescapable sin, the doctors told them. With so many affected in a single family, it must be. There was no escaping when it was trapped in the blood. Perhaps it would be several years, or 20, but eventually she would lose her eyesight. One physician had suggested bleeding in hopes to remove the impurities, but her father refused to allow it. Minor as they were at the time, he feared bleeding would kill her. Her current tin spectacles were only moderately helpful, having been made over 2 years ago in her hometown of Charleston, South Carolina. Nevertheless, she made do, lucky to have retained as much sight as she did. Outside the cabin window, the sky painted the pale lavender of pre-sunrise as her feet whispered across the single-room cabin toward her trunk. From within its recesses, she slipped on a modest mauve day dress, followed by a fresh cream apron. She knotted the strings back in front before drawing her brunette curls into a simple knot at the base of her neck, with a swath over her ears on either side. No embellishments or combs. They were not needed in a wilderness such as this. Still a territory, Washington boasted barely 1,000 settlers, and their town of Larksong hardly contributed more to that number. "Ready to greet another glorious day?" her friend and cabin mate Martha Lewis asked, as she tied her own apron over her brown and blue checkered skirt and cream-colored blouse. She reached for the matching bonnet and settled it over her coal-black braid. A former slave, Martha had come about their wagon party by chance, fleeing Missouri with her mistress, Sarah. After a slew of deceased husbands, Sarah had been avoiding life in an asylum, while Martha ran from being sold. The girls had grown up as sisters and were now the dearest of friends. In turn, their 2,000-mile journey together had solidified their friendship with Coraline, although even their kind souls were not enough to yet know of her affliction. Coraline offered Martha a smile, which she knew her friend could see even in the semi-darkness. "I will grant you the gloriousness of the sunrise, but the day? I'm afraid a conclusion is yet to be drawn." "You say that every morning. I don't know why I should have expected today to be any different." "Perhaps you should stop asking, then." Martha grinned as she slipped the final loop through her bonnet's bow and tugged. "I will when you provide me a different answer." "I'll provide you both with a glorious string of saucy language if you don't let me sleep. Honestly, Cora, the sun isn't even up." This snip came from one of the 2 wood-hewn beds which contained the semi-sleeping form of Coraline's 18-year-old sister, Alice Ann. Her burnished locks fell across her pillow, her lightly tanned complexion as different from Martha's deep umber skin as could be. She stretched across Coraline's empty half of the bed. "I thought sunrise was the best time for fishing," Cora said. "Papa swore his life by it." "I run my fishing business my way." "That would be admirable if your way worked." With a snort, Alice Ann turned over to face the cabin's exterior wall and pulled her blanket to her chin. Without proper chinking, the cabin's half-moon cedar walls leaked, and the sod shoved between the cracks was barely a buffer for the wind. The mud between the roof beams had already been replaced twice. "This is what your father wants for you and Alice Ann," their mother had told Coraline the day they left Charleston. "This will be a better life, beautiful land that you should see before you can't anymore." She took her middle daughter's hands. "This is right, darling." A pause, and tears welled. She drew her child into her arms. "Oh, I am going to miss you,"